As far as next week goes, you're gonna be swamped anyway. Just take the week off, and Zach and I will cover it. Like,
Okay.
we don't need to jump stuff around. I don't want to
Okay. Well, that's probably
overburden
best.
burden with stuff because also that affects Erica's schedule with how things work for her.
Okay.
Because it's been working good for her to come in on Tuesday mornings to edit this,
Okay. All
and
right. And I should be fine for the 26th. So
perfect. It's Parker's birthday.
to
Next week is it's MLK Day.
it is MLK Day. That's why it's so crazy that we have a show. We're always dark, but that's what worked. And we're like, we're not gonna be like, sorry, Elizabeth Banks, the one night you can do, we're just not gonna do it. We're like, we're doing it.
Probably not a good idea.
We're doing it.
Hey, I'm gonna let you say hi to the chat real quick while I and then I'll be right back.
Oh, great. The period of time in which I said I was checking Sketchfest stuff to make sure that nothing was wrong.
Just read your emails out loud.
Cool. All right. This is a party flyer attachment I'm supposed to be reviewing, y'all. Gonna go ahead and look at that. I'm so sorry, everyone. But sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. Again, this is Bob's fault. I just want to remind everyone that it is Bob's fault. For all of you who are just joining us, Bob went to pee right as I was like, let me quickly take a moment since I'm up here getting ready for the festival to start to just make sure nothing like super, super pressing is happening. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is in the time I was supposed to have dedicated to making sure nothing crazy was happening, somebody had to go. So just bear with me. So sorry. Delete, and delete, and great.
Do you know I'm gonna stay sharp right now?
How you gonna stay sharp?
My new favorite thing, this guy right here. See that? You know what that is?
No, I have no idea.
Cocaine.
Huh.
No, just kidding.
Comes as a surprise.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, Nero gum. You ever heard of Nero gum?
No, Nero gum. No, I haven't.
The TikToks got me, and of course, chewing gum might not be the best idea.
I guess I would agree. I'd rather go back to a second apple than have you chewing gum. But all right.
We'll see how this shakes out here once we start recording. Once I get it chewed up a little bit, because right now, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's not great. It's a real mouthful. It's like cud.
Yeah, and even though it's a little tiny piece of gum,
it looked very large because you held it very close to the camera. So now I'm confused about how much it. And also, your mouth seems very full.
It's only that big.
It's not very big.
It's a little bitty piece.
You're not navigating it very well.
I certainly am not. No, I just you first put in a fresh piece of bubbly gum, and it's real moist, and it's got some crunches to it also.
Little crunch crystals. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, little crunch crystals.
Cool.
It's gum. It's designed for energy and focus. It's got 40 milligrams of caffeine. It's got L-theanine.
Yeah, L-theanine. L-theanine.
I'll take your word for it. And a lot of B6, a lot of B12.
If I chewed gum right now when it's 8 o'clock your time, I would not be able to go to bed. Like if I chewed the gum you're describing, I would be like, what should I clean?
The funny thing is when I chose my drink of choice for today, I made sure I grabbed the non-caffeinated ginger ale.
Is the gum your first caffeine of the day?
Of the day? No.
Well, I don't know. You said when I picked my drink this morning.
I didn't mean this morning. When I came out here. I was like, it's already 8 o'clock. I'm going to have a nice non-caffeinated beverage. I grabbed it. So the effect that I have had from this when I had it, and it could be completely placebo, is it doesn't make me like wiry and jittery, but it does seem to sharpen my focus. And I was thinking back to last week when like
I'm
5 times
I desperately need this through the entire festival. Nero, N-E-R-O, like Captain
N-E-U-R-O.
Nero. Yeah.
Just the only place that I know that like stocks it on the shelves is CVS pharmacies.
Okay.
And you go back to buy the supplements back there. It's like $5 for a little 9-pack of them. But yeah, I don't know if it's placebo, but they say that's what it does. And I get those like 2 in the afternoon lulls at
Oh,
work all the
sure.
time,
Yeah.
and so I started like, well, maybe I'll just try one of these, and it does. It perks my, and you don't notice it. You're
I
not
should tell
jittery.
Brandon about this because he has the lulls every day, and he is always like, "I'm dying. There's something terribly wrong with me that I feel sleepy." I'm like, "That's why the Spanish do a siesta.
Hmm.
That entire country is not dying."
Yeah,
But he, like, it really hits him hard,
yeah.
like, and he
It
hates
does
it.
me too. And what bother and Nick said it's the
Especially.
L-theanine that does that. But my thing is, I seriously feel like when I get tired like that in the afternoon, it affects my ability to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this, like, it's I don't know, I just feel like
Oh,
I'm sharper and focused, and I thought, "You know what?
great.
I'm gonna lock in, and,
I
if it
wish
keeps
I
me
had
ab."
some for the intro I forgot I had to do.
Oh, look at that.
I didn't even put the outline together, but somehow I gotta
Listen,
what are
we
we
got
doing?
if it weren't for Lindsay, we'd be out of this episode in 4 minutes. Lindsay came through right at the last minute as I was, like, walking out
Oh,
to write the
yeah, a
outline,
few
and I'm
more
like,
questions. Few more questions from Lindsay. Very nice.
"Mhm."
Okay, let me I'm never gonna I'm never gonna remember where I wrote anything down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you that
Um,
are mentioning this in the chat, obviously not a sponsor, um, but you can. I ordered a bag of it on Amazon. It was like $25 for a big bag of 90 of them, and then I liked it so much, I was like, but so then I had little Ziploc baggies all over the place to take a couple of them to school and work with me. Then I went into the CVS and they had the small packs for like $5, so I could just keep one in my desk and keep one in my car.
yeah, there you go. What episode is this?
Season 17, episode 24,
And what's Michael's last name?
Osbrook.
Great. Well, that's the only thing I'm writing down. So let's hope the old improv skills kick
Improv,
in.
professional improviser, one of the most talented people I've ever met in my whole life, right there, Janet Barney,
So nice. That feels like I'm
JB.
just set up for me to lay a stinky turd of an intro.
Well, that's why we got Erica.
Great.
Well, let's get because the other thing, if this does perk me up too much for too long,
Uh-huh.
what it'll do is I really want to watch the first episode of His and Hers before I go to bed tonight, and this might
Okay.
keep me going.
Keep you going. Okay. All
So
right.
I'm going
Let
to end this
me
pregame show. Pre-gamers, we love you guys. We're glad that
we
you
sure
got
do.
to learn. What did we learn? You learned all about fruit, the best fruit, what fruit
And
to
we
avoid.
short with what Zach's ailment was. Some say blissfully, wonderfully, mercifully short.
Well, I derailed myself there a bit with that one, but we did
Uh,
learn all about Zach's malady. What else did we get there? You learned the ins and outs of barn dominiums. You did. It was for those of you that listen. You're not on the Patreon. You really missed out. It was a good one. Alrighty, I'm going to end this. Pre-gamers, we love you guys. We'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Stupid. All right. Oh, I just freaked myself out, but I'm fine. I hit stop on the roadcaster and it turned green. And for some reason, my brain was telling me green,
Like
green means go.
yeah,
And I'm
like
like,
you
no,
hadn't
idiot.
been recording and now
Yeah.
you
Yeah. No, red records. Reds record. And we're good.
okay,
We're in
good.
good shape.
So far the gum is doing great.
Yeah. Lock me in. All right. Are you ready for this?
I'm so ready for this.
All right. I'm rolling.
I'm also rolling.
1, 2, 3. Terrible clap. I've been a bad clapper lately.
Let's redo that clap because I feel like I was looking at the GarageBand instead of at you, so I wasn't ready.
Okay. This is all to make it harder on Erica. 1,
Hi, Erica.
2, 3. There. Line them both. Let's see. We'll see how well we did when Erica lines them up. If they both line up.
She's gonna be like they were both garbage, you guys.
Yeah,
Garbage.
they're like ding,
On
ding,
either
ding,
side.
ding.
Okay. Sorry, Erica. Love you, Erica. Here I go, question mark. Ahoy, friends. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for Steven. Not a good start. Ahoy, friends. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for season 17, episode 24 with attorney Michael Osbrook. Michael came on the show to talk with Bob, not just about the Chris Bynum case, but about process in general. They touched on conviction integrity units and nope, just taking a breath. We're just going to pick that up. conviction integrity units, and much more. We have some feedback and questions from listeners. Unfortunately, we are sans Zach today, but we are going to jump in and talk about this episode. First, do we have any housekeeping?
Not other than just kind of touching base with where we're at. As I told you guys last week, my plan was to hit pause on season 17 and move on to season 18. I told you I was putting together an episode about learning where you're at as far as if you're in custody, where your custodial situation is, and what your rights are, and how you should interact with officers in situations like that. I'm still doing that episode. We're actually going to do it this week, and truthfully, time wise, based on some feedback I've had, I'll talk a little bit about the end. It's actually probably better this week. But when I brought Michael on, really the intention was just to talk about process, and then we just got into the Bynum discussion, which is why it was still part of season 17. But so as of now, and I did speak with one of Chris's attorneys. We do have things in the work. It's a process for us to line up with the prison and with the attorneys to set up the call. But we are going to have an interview with Chris coming up, so we will bounce back then. In the meantime, we're gonna plug along with season 18, where we're just gonna try to educate and inform and help shine a light on as many areas of the criminal justice system as we can along the way. So it'll be coming up this Sunday. And this episode shouldn't be, Michael is, you can tell, not only is he an extremely talented attorney, but you could also tell he's a professor, because he covered the material in such depth. I already knew who's going to ask a question. Like, there's no questions left, and that seems we only have just a handful of questions. So we'll talk as long as we feel like yapping, and then we're not going to drag this thing out, because you guys didn't have a lot of questions. Everybody seemed to love Michael's episode, so we'll cover what we got, and we'll move on from there. Jana, did you personally have any takeaways before we get into the listener stuff?
Well, it was really cool to hear from Michael on this podcast. As you teed in to the episode itself, he is familiar to some of us who follow, for example, Andrea Burkhart or Bob Mata, have definitely watched or listened to conversations that he's participated in with respect to the Delphi case and other cases. So it was very cool to find out that he is involved in Chris Bynum's case. And of course, once I remembered that he's Indiana and it's Indiana, it made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool to hear you guys talking about it, and just to get his perspective on, as you said, not just sort of how he sees things from a federal perspective. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, and kind of I realized, like, oh, I think I am guilty of this, was when he mentioned that for some of us who get frustrated with what happens, on a more regional or like state level, that you suddenly count on the federal level as like, this is going to clean things up somehow. Like these people are going to be less attached to the material, and therefore maybe they'll catch something that, made it through to that point. And that's supposed to be what happens with the checks and balances system. And we have seen it work that way for sure. We've definitely seen convictions be overturned by state Supreme Courts, for example. But yeah, just hearing him not necessarily wanting to rain on anyone's parade, but just to kind of be like, look, make no mistake, it's very challenging on that level as well. And then just hearing about the work that he and his students did, and the success rate that they had, was really exciting and inspiring.
Yeah, and to me, it was so helpful. I'm still not sure I got it all the way, but it was very helpful, the breakdown he gave of how, because I'm sure you heard, like, I had a document in front of me, and I was still struggling to, like, okay, so wait, it goes from here to what, then there, and then is that back to state, or are we back to federal, and then Supreme Court's a different animal. He just did such a good job of and being patient with me. Going through that, because I get, as I mentioned, like in the Pinion Pines case, I'm still so baffled by where things are at in that process. It was like, well, we're waiting on the hearing for the federal habeas, and we're getting ready to file in state. I'm like, wait, what? Does that come before that? And so that kind of helped break down where all that stuff was at. But Michael is just absolutely brilliant. And actually, I didn't I didn't know if anybody wanted or if he really wanted to talk about Chris's case because we haven't mentioned that he's part of this. So that was a surprise to me too. I wasn't planning on talking about Chris's case, but I'm glad we did because Michael is brilliant and he's done a ton of work on the case. It was cool to hear him kind of bring out some of the details that we didn't know.
Yeah, I like listening to him. In particular, I'm thinking of, I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but there was a very interesting conversation. I think I want to say it was Bob and Andrea and Michael. And in particular, Andrea and Michael, I think, having done so much kind of post conviction work and appellate law and stuff like that. It's really interesting when you have two people who really respect each other and who have a similar breadth or background or interest or whatever expertise, and to hear them not necessarily agree on next steps that should be taken. That really helps you understand the nuances of just all the different approaches that you can take in post
Yeah.
conviction work, and that not everybody is going to think the same plan is the right plan. And so I find that all very interesting. I mean, this is a group of people, listening, Truth and Justice listeners, they like to get
Hmm.
into the weeds a little bit. So they get it. They get
Yeah.
that that's all very interesting to me.
Well, and I've been a part of so many of those strategy that not that anybody's looking for me for a legal strategy, but I've worked with attorneys on
Oh, of
cases where we've
course.
been having the discussion, and my role in some of those have been, what do we need you to go out and find for us, Bob, for us to do this thing?
Sure.
But I've always it's been these last coming on 11 years now have been so enlightening for me to understand how the system works, and particularly how the post conviction system works, because it doesn't work the way you want it to. You know what I mean? Like, when I first
Yeah.
got into this, it was like, "Oh, here's evidence that shows he's innocent, so clearly they'll
Call
let him
someone and
go."
let's get into that courtroom,
Yeah, like,
right?
how do we just get him out of here? And then you realize it's obviously more complicated than that, but then also, like, all the procedural things, like we were talking about how, situations where we have enough information here to file a writ to try to get the conviction overturned, but it might not be enough. Jesse's case, for example. Now, forget the conviction integrity unit. Let's just say with Jesse's case, we have Troy recanting. Well, then, his attorneys may have to decide, okay, do we file the habeas based on this new this new evidence and take our shot, our one bite at the apple, knowing that if it fails, that we're done, we're dead in the water? Or
Yeah.
what else can we do? Could we do some more DNA testing? Could we do this? What else could we stack on top of it? I mean, you look at I was going to bring it up with Michael, but we just never circled back around to it. I mean, look at what happened with Adnan when we're talking about procedural situations. The first time his conviction was overturned based on the cell phone evidence,
Right.
it got overturned. It was held up in the next court, and then finally, I don't know if it was the Maryland Supreme Court, or which layer of court it was. I think it was the Maryland Supreme Court. They said they reinstated the conviction, not because it wasn't a sound argument, but because they didn't bring it up in a previous
Yeah.
appeal, which meant it wasn't new, and therefore it was time barred. So even though they agreed that made his trial unfair and he should get a new trial, it doesn't matter. You still don't get a new trial because you didn't follow the right procedure.
Right. Yeah, that particular place and time and case, I have to imagine, people like Colin Miller and Michael are just using as examples and will forever, because that's a perfect representation of kind of feeling like maybe it's meant to make you go crazy. And I know it's not, and that is coming from the most layperson point of view, but that's a perfect example of something where you just kind of want to pull your hair out, because you get into the kind of procedural, and then the like, it could have been this and it could have been this. And then you see stuff like, and obviously Kathleen Zellner has worked on cases of ours. But like, I remember in Making a Murderer, she had that like giant stack of paper. And I had this, even then, not knowing very much, I had this worry, like, is it too much? Is
Yeah.
it what's not enough? Is when's the right time? When do you strike? And when is it possible that, like, are you giving too, like, is it overwhelming and like everything cancels itself out? Like we've talked about that with Chris's case, it's
Yeah.
just a lot. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's at least from a layman perspective, like mine. When I look at Chris's case, I look at the Matthews confession in the affidavits, the four affidavits that we had covered kind of the week before we covered that one, and it was like, I I almost feel like the Matthews affidavit hurt him more than it helped
Mhm.
him. It wasn't going to be enough to overturn the conviction, but what it did is it took away some of the credibility of what I think is probably, in my opinion, was probably more credible, better credible information in those
Yeah,
affidavits. So
yeah.
there's these weird balancing act all the time.
It's stressful. It's really stressful.
Oh, we got Michael's
Um,
in the chat right now, by the way. So
oh, hi, Michael. Wonderful.
anybody throws a question at him, he's right
Yeah.
here.
If there's any, well, I'll have to re-look at this. There, it may be very useful to have him in here, whether or not that's true. It's great to have you here, Michael. Shall we? Let's jump into some questions and see where we get.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with Kathleen. Kathleen has a couple of questions. First, she says, the shoes aren't in evidence. Any way to check if that's true? What about the socks? My thoughts are that Sheila may have been carried by her feet and hands, causing her shoes and socks to fall off, which could mean the killer's DNA and fingerprints could be on those items.
Yeah, and I believe there was an exclamation point in there at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Shoes
Yeah,
aren't in evidence,
the shoes aren't
exclamation
in
mark. Like,
evidence?
holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, short of inspecting the actual evidence room, from what Michael told us, and again, he's in the chat, he can chime in if there's something different than the way I understood it. We have the evidence logs of what they collected and what they preserved, and the shoes and socks aren't. Well, now I'm drawing a blank. Didn't we decide there were socks on one of her feet? I don't remember. Michael will know if he's paying attention down there. But as far as the shoes go, yeah, that's insane that they weren't. But even whether they carried her by her, her arms and ankles to move her back there or not, which I personally I find unlikely because she's nude, right? So like the shoes would have come off before in order for the pants to come off.
Right.
So I doubt that that's the case. But what we know now, and they should have known even in 2000, is the shoe being out in the middle of the ball field, especially that one, you can be almost assured that the killer touched those. Like I don't think she threw her own shoe out in the middle of the
Right.
thing, which
Right.
means the killer's touched DNA. It's like one of the few things, and we always talk about this, like when we have a crime scene, there's all the different places, right, where you can get DNA. We talked a little, in the previous episode about the Bill Little's murder, Jamie Snow case. Like that's up because you can get DNA and you can get fingerprints, but it's not going to help. There's a chance it won't help because there's a million different reasons for it to get on there. But you're always looking for like, what is the thing that if someone's DNA is on that, it is almost certainly connected to the crime.
Right.
And in this case, we can with reasonable assurity, the killer threw her shoe out there. And so if you find a DNA profile from one of our suspects or somebody in CODIS or something like that on that shoe, you can almost be certain they were involved in the murder.
Right.
And so it's shy. I guess I didn't realize that until Michael brought it up, that they didn't even collect them.
Yeah, and he says it is absolutely true about the shoes. Only 11 things on that evidence list. He mentions there is a single work boot, and no one knows where that came from.
That's insane.
It's insane.
That's absolutely insane. And we talked about too that
Oof.
the more and more I look at the crime scene, and especially after our episode with Colin, where we broke down where the drag patterns were and the blood patterns, I am convinced, at least close to being fully convinced, that Sheila was killed back by the dugouts in the same area where Liz was killed, which then means that pool of blood all the way back by the car is extremely significant. Like that is there's, it seems like that would be a very, very, very good chance that is the blood of our killer.
Right.
And as I mentioned in the episode where we broke down that crime scene way back, that gunshot wound into Sheila's head absolutely passed through something else first.
Right.
There's no question about, and I had way back then had proposed the theory, like, what if you have, 2 or 3 people and somebody is like, dude, what are you doing? And tries to stop them from shooting. It seems like a crazy thing, and maybe it is crazy, but like, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that shot could have went through one of the killer's hands. or arm or something if they were trying to stop them from shooting her, because that bullet was deformed before it ever got to her head. So, that's just another spot where like you could have a pool of the killer's blood sitting right there plain as day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really hard. Again, we are constantly armchair quarterbacking and looking back and in retrospect and not knowing what we don't know. But like other cases we've discussed, I'm definitely thinking about Pinyon Pines and the wheelbarrow, for example. Like it's so hard to imagine the conversation, if even there was one, about not picking certain things up and just being like, no, just leave that. Or
Yeah,
like,
it's so hard for me without knowing these detectives, like in like having a real good detailed look at what they've done on their cases, like Bertozzi, particularly the crime scene investigator, like just trying to like was he just terrible at his job? It's like it's hard to know, like is this like intentional, or are they not looking? But I mean, that was before they even, supposedly they even knew Chris was a part of it. I don't think they knew at the beginning, like when they're processing the crime scene, it's like, hey, we're going to frame somebody, so don't get any. Like, I don't that doesn't make sense.
right, no, exactly.
So it's like, does he just bad at his job, or did they do these things and then shitbox him out of the file before, it's like once they get Chris, it's like, let's get rid of the shoes, get rid of that blood. We need to we don't just act like you never took any of that stuff. Don't put that
Right.
stuff in your report.
It's
I
all
don't
bad.
Yeah, I don't know, but it sure
Whatever it
seems
is,
more
it's I can't
likely than
yeah.
a professional crime scene investigator not documenting the crime scene any better than he did, not collecting all the evidence from that crime scene. I mean, 11 pieces of evidence in a quintuple homicide across 2 crime scenes? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, no way.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right, Kathleen also says Michael mentioned that Bertossi's report said something about blood north of the bodies that wasn't photographed. Could this be the blood by the dugout? It's confusing where the blood actually is from the photos, but Colin really cleared this up with his analysis.
Yeah, I mean, I I think that the only blood that I've seen from the pictures that is south of the bodies is just that bit of blood on the shingles by the car. I think everything else is north of there, like between, so you
Mhm.
got the trail going back towards the dugout, the drag trail, you've got the big blood pool where the cones were at. So yeah, so yeah, north of the bodies is, but then also like what in I don't know if Michael was just generalizing, or if that was what the actual report said.
He says, I think it was north, but it was not in any pics, whatever it was, or
Okay, yeah.
wherever it was. I'm sorry.
So, because if we're talking actual north, like due north of the bodies, you're not talking about, because the dugout is northwest of the
Right.
bodies. So, like if it actual north of the bodies would be in the woods further north of the bodies. Like, so what are we talking? Is it a pool? Is it a blood spatter? Or did by north I mean like in general further north, but actually northwest? There's just, and again, it's just like, these are not questions we should have.
I mean, how do you know that you saw something like blood evidence? You saw it, you were there, and then I guess after the fact you just realize, wait, no one photographed that? Like how many people are how many people are photographing that someone's like, "Oh, I thought George got that." Like that's not, you
No,
know what I
and
mean?
it was like
And you're supposed
literally
to be setting
Bertossi's
markers, right?
job.
Aren't
Like, you
you?
had one job,
Yeah.
Bertossi's, to take those
It's
pictures.
it's so strange. I mean, again, it feels like then that's the problem with these cases is that nobody wants to be a conspiracy theorist. Nobody wants to give fodder to someone on the quote unquote other side to say, okay, listen to yourself. This sounds ridiculous. But when you hear someone say, oh, by the way, there was some blood I didn't photograph, it feels like the next thing you think is, why are you saying that?
Well,
Like,
I
do
don't
you
think
have
he
a
said it,
reason for
so
saying that? Like, I mean, but
I don't think he said it quite like that, like Michael just clarified in the chat. So what it is in his report, he describes blood north of the bodies.
yeah,
But in the crime scene photos, that picture doesn't exist.
right.
Like, he never took a picture of the blood, or the so I mean, it's splitting hairs, but he didn't say, "Oh, there was blood and I didn't take a picture of it." It's we
Right.
know he didn't take a picture of it because there's no picture,
Right.
but he described that it was there.
Right. But that's also just totally bizarre. I mean, to your point, why would you do that in the moment, like actively already planning on some kind of conspiracy? Like that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah,
then you
but then
just have to write it off to ineptitude, which is terrifying.
and then at the same time, like you see, oh, there's some blood. I'm going to take time and write down in my report. There's some blood there, and your camera's hanging around your neck, and it doesn't occur to you like, oh, better take a picture.
No,
Like it's
no,
so bizarre.
no. Lindsay came through with a few more questions for us today. Lindsay says, not specific to the last episode, but in terms of finding a good case, it seems like you and other podcasts have had success from talking with current or former inmates and Innocence Projects organizations. I don't know why I'm trying to pluralize things that aren't pluralized.
Oh,
Innocence Project organizations. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It is very interesting, the intel from inmates who say, I think, I think this person didn't do this thing.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
what
and
do you think about that?
I've had that on a number of occasions. They were just never I've not had one that, like, kind of fit the parameters that I would cover on the show. So there's there have been cases where, um, it's maybe a sexual assault or a robbery or so, like, the sexual assault, as you guys know, I just won't cover those on here because I'm just not re-traumatizing a victim
Right.
trying to figure out if they got the wrong person. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Won't do that. And then sometimes or it's like a robbery where it's like they're innocent, but like there's not the kind of evidence to work with and the people to interview that we would have to be able to like do anything meaningful with the investigation. Or there are cases where it's like, look, he was there participating in the robbery, but he's not the one that shot him. The other guy shot him, and I prove him that person by all means deserves every bit of defense they can get, but it's just not something that I'm going to take on the podcast.
Right.
But yeah, we're always looking for things like that. The thing with the Innocence Project, we get those all the time. We've done many of them, but it's like it always worked great with Innocence Project of Texas. We had such a good and still have such a good working relationship with them that we work very well together. Where they let me go out and do my work. They'll direct me on things they need me to go find for them, and then there's, hey, don't talk about this, but maybe do that. But they're very, very open to, in at least the cases we've worked on and where they were at in litigation wise, to allowing me to like fully continue to do my job and us as an audience to work together to do the job. Most of the time it's not the case. And when we've got involved with other, it's like, yeah, we want you to do this. And then it's like, but and for good reason. Their job is to get the client out of prison. Their job isn't to make a
Right.
podcast.
Right.
But but most of the time when working with attorneys, you run into, okay, I'm like, okay, I think we need to talk to this person, and they're like, that's a great lead, thank you. Don't tell anybody that, and don't go talk to them because we're going to go talk to them. Which again is the right thing to do,
Right.
but it makes it so hard to be able to produce this while doing that.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I think the inmate coming in, it's not that I'm not saying I'll never take another case that an innocent project or somebody or an attorney brings to me.
Sure.
I'm not going to say that, but I'm really looking for that great case that nobody knows about, where somebody really needs help, where they don't have an attorney, and we can really, Jody's case was a great example. We were able to just dig in and go. There was nobody putting the brakes anywhere because no one else was working on the case
Mm-hmm.
until it got to the attorney general's office, and then we pass it off to them.
Right. Right. Just very quickly, too, I see Michael says, by the way, regarding this case, by the way, the Tempo was a two-door with a baby seat in the back on the on the driver's side, a baby seat in the back on the driver's side.
Right, which pretty much says there could only have been one other person in the car. But I also, if I remember correctly, I think I read somewhere that we don't have a picture of this, but I feel like I read somewhere where I think the passenger side, that the seat was pushed forward like they do when you like to get out of a back seat of a car, which would indicate there was a third person
Mm-hmm.
in the back seat. But with the baby seat, I mean, I guess you could fit two people back there, but it's not a big car, and the baby seat's taking up half the back seat.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, speaking as someone who has been wedged into the middle between a baby seat and another person, it's possible, depending on, yeah, people's sizes and stuff. Lindsay also says a quick Google search shows that there could be some AI tools that could read lips for the video, such as Google's DeepMind and Oxford's LipNet. And I will just give my own personal opinion and say there is a certain irony to the fact that AI cannot get lip flaps right on the generating side.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes me nervous is that whenever I see AI, I'm like, that mouth does not work at all. Like the physics of forming words with your tongue and teeth, AI has a really hard time with. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on the flip side of that. Can AI effectively read lips?
I've never tried it, but I wouldn't with this one anyway. Sorry, banging my mic. But I wouldn't with this one anyway because I've had many people reach out, listeners who are or either are trained to read lips or are friends with people that are very fluent in reading lips that have all looked at it and they've all pretty much said the same thing. He's not saying anything. Like what they can all tell you is that what he's saying is not lining up with the transcript, because some of them are just read lip, but several of them were people who are deaf and can't hear it and only read lip. So they were comparing the transcript to what he was saying, and the consensus is 100% across the board. The way he's moving looks like he's not really he's not saying anything. Like there's nothing. Like if I was standing there talking to him, I would have no idea what he's saying.
Right.
But what I can tell you is he's not saying what's on the transcript.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that makes sense in the sense that if the takeaway is for whatever reason the video happens afterwards and it is to bolster the viability of that audio tape. Think about what you see on TikTok and Instagram and stuff now, especially when like kids are quote unquote lip syncing, but they need to move quickly. They don't really know the lyrics to the song, but they're just communicating the idea that they're lip syncing and they're just moving their mouths. They're not, every once in a while, maybe you click on a lyric that you know, and you'll see, and it changes, right? You see it lock in, and our brains, because we're little animals who are taking in information and processing it and trying to make sense of it, that we feel the uncanny valley of someone not quite saying the words that they're supposedly saying when the lip flaps match. That's lip flaps is a term that we use in voiceover all the time, just in case everyone's wondering. That's an official term. But and then when they fall back out, or someone from a different culture who maybe doesn't speak the same language, but they're lip syncing to a song in this other language, you can just feel the difference between having that understanding of exactly what you're saying and mimicking it perfectly and just kind of doing it for performative sake, which is, again, totally fine. But to me, that tracks. It tracks that you would be like, the important thing is that it's my voice. I said it. And now we just need to kind of move my mouth. So it is clear that like, I know what this is happening and I'm the one that said the words, but that it's not needed, that maybe I don't need to articulate it that clearly, or otherwise we would have found a way for me to read it or whatever.
Yeah. It would have been a lot better if he just took a video of him holding the affidavit saying, I'm Gerald Matthews and I did do this.
That's a really, really simple way of getting potentially the exact same information that they were hoping to get across with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
We only had a time
machine. Which is
machine.
why it's so baffling.
It's like, yeah.
It's so baffling.
We're having these weird conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally from Lindsay, I keep coming back to the fact that only a small portion of the recorded audio is different from the notarized text. I'm wondering how this fits into your current theory of the video, which we basically covered. Anything you want to add based on?
No, I mean, it makes me more confused in the fact that, well, I guess it doesn't really, if I really think about it, because the idea was that I think that the affidavit was written first and then the recording was made. The way it sounds to me, just inflections and stuff in his voice, when he adds that little bit in the middle, it seems like, the way I took that is though he was reading it and then he got the part and he was like, oh yeah, there's this other thing I need to add in there, and he added it in. So I think that, I was going to say it really confused the issue, but it doesn't, because the video really doesn't. If the video, what's happening in the video is what I think is happening in the video, then it really doesn't play into it, because that already happened. There's already the difference between the audio and the written transcript. The video of him just sitting there, just moving his lips around, doesn't change anything with that at all.
Right. And I just want to quickly scroll back because Michael mentioned one more thing about the tempo. Michael, are you allowed to talk about this stuff? I feel like I feel like we're getting some really juicy information in here that we didn't know. But he says also nothing in the reports, but the tempo ignition switch was broken.
Yeah.
So do with that information what you will.
Yeah, and it looks like and it didn't Tasha tell us that they had to start it with a screwdriver or something? That's why the club was in
You know
there?
what? I think that that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the club was in there because he didn't want her to be able to take the car out whenever she wanted. I thought that was the joke that Tasha made,
Yeah, well,
which a
but I
joke that was also true.
yeah, but I think that it was the reason there was a concern about her taking it whenever wanted is because you didn't need a key for it.
Oh, maybe that's right.
Because you had I feel like she
trumped
definitely
down on
told me
that one
that. I
part.
don't know if it was on the air or off the air, but
She
that
probably
you
did. I so clearly remembered like
the
chuckling
club,
about the
yeah.
idea of the club, yeah, and why it was
Yeah.
there.
And that's
Um,
interesting. So, like, what was never collected is a club or a screwdriver or anything that we know that would be used to start the car.
the club thing is also, I mean, if it was there
Right.
and it was used, that's maddening. Maddening. Okay. And then finally, we have this post. There was a really long, very interesting and thorough post that Juan posted on the Truth and Justice official fans Facebook page. And we're not going to read the whole thing verbatim. We're just going to kind of sum it up a little bit. But I'd love to just kind of go over this as sort of maybe our last thing, our last
Yep.
official thing. So Juan's post lay out a lot of evidence, developed a theory. He points out that in Chris Bynum's first statement, Chris claims he does not know Terrell, then later says they worked together at Job Corp in Chicago and Gary, and that the shift happens right after the detective corrects Bynum when he slips and says the name Chris. Juan questions whether detectives steered that story to cover that slip and then connect Bynum to Chicago. Does that track for you?
Yeah. Yep.
Let's just take that by itself. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think that the detective steered the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the Chris slip to me was read to me as though he was like kind of reading off of notes, and that's why he said Chris and not me because
Right.
he was reading off of notes. Um, the detective changing it to he knew Terrell from working in Job Corps together. I don't know. I don't know that what the utility really is there. I guess I can see some of it. I think there was just I think it was just a shit show. Really, personally. Like it was a completely made up nonsense story. And when you have a made up nonsense story, you end up with all kinds of details and plot holes that don't line up.
So at the end of the day, just to refresh us, do you feel like he didn't know Terrell and that all of that was just kind of like, well, we're gonna have to connect you to this, so we need you to say this.
I don't have enough information to know.
Yeah.
You know, I have
Yeah.
him saying he doesn't and then him saying he did.
Right.
And I don't know. Yeah, I haven't talked to him about it now. I don't know what he's ever said about it post then. So yeah, I don't have enough information to even make an educated guess.
Understood. Okay. Juan also notes that Rob G. Carr worked for a carpet cleaning company tied to an address in Indianapolis, and Juan points out that's the same city where the Gerald Matthews confession tapes originated. And in fact, even one name that Juan found that was linked to Rob seemed similar to the woman who had been listed on that return address. But Juan was like, that's may not, I think it was Michelle Williams, which that's such a common name. Probably
Yeah.
even
So it
Juan
was
was like, "I
actually
don't know." Yeah, go ahead.
I want to pause here with this for just a minute. So it was Melissa Williams
I'm sorry. Yeah.
is the well, I think Juan had wrote Michelle in his post,
Oh,
but yeah, the return address was Melissa Williams. And Juan, if this was you, this is the best way I know how to get this out for everybody. I think it was Juan. I was telling Janet in the pre-show, somebody had sent me an email who must either, work with an attorney, have resources, or be some kind of investigator. That they had done some searching into all of this is why I think it was actually, I think it very well likely was Juan who sent me this
mm,
email, but somehow I could not find that email anymore. But in the email, they had asked if the return address started with a certain number, ended with a number, because they're trying to fact check themselves. So this is what I'll give you if it was you, Juan, or whoever it was, or for anybody else that's checking this. So the return address on the envelope, it was addressed to Melissa Williams. It was a 4-digit address. It started with 6 and ended in 7. And I think that was the question. If I remember correctly, the email I got was, did it end in 5? It didn't. It was started with 6, ended in 7. And I'll give you the street. It was Croquet Place.
Hmm.
So the return address was 6 blank blank 7 Croquet Place. I just don't want to give the exact address because I don't
Sure.
want somebody bothering. This person has nothing to do with any of this,
Right.
which you shouldn't do anyway, by the way, ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just want that information out there for who, if it was Juan or whoever, that is chasing down all these different connections. That was it. It was 6 blank blank 7 Croquet Place in Indianapolis.
Okay. Any thoughts on the idea that Rob Carr maybe having some sort of connection to the origin, the address that was listed on the return for those tapes? You feel like there could be something there?
If it matches up, that would be significant.
Right.
But I don't know what Juan has found, the exact address Juan has found. That's why I wanted to put that out there so
Yeah.
they can either Juan can either email me, or I don't care if we have probably better to email me directly or private message me about it. So we're not putting all this information out all over the place. But I would say this: if that address is, hey, that address is somebody who Rob Carr worked for or worked with, or has a direct connection to Rob Carr all the way down in Indianapolis, and Gerald Matthews used that, or whoever sent us Gerald Matthews' confession, which was supposedly Roger Shannon. If Roger Shannon happened to use that exact same address now there's a for real connection with the confession that definitely needs to be looked into closer. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious where this shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next, Juan highlights that the callback number Liz received matched closely with the number for the Sporting Life liquor store, and Juan suggests that someone may have used a nearby payphone and that the liquor store could have been a base of activity. So this is he lists the phone number. It's got the same first 3 digits and then different last 4 digits. They're not like it's not like they're 1 digit off from each other.
I think they're the same numbers. They're just arranged differently.
Maybe. I don't remember looking at the number that way. I just remember
Yeah.
looking at it and saying, "Okay, well, it's not like it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the next is 3, 4, 5, 7." But
Yeah,
yeah, maybe.
it's interesting. It may be something, but also I think that we got to be pretty clear. Okay, I see what he's saying. I was like, we pretty much know. I mean, she told her she was going to the Sporting Liquor, or the Sporting Life liquor store. So we assume the text came from there. But I think what he's saying is the phone number is the one that they
callback number.
said, the callback number that they said matched Chris Bynum's number was real close, which, again, there's so many rabbit holes to go down here, because that's the page you didn't sign. That's the page that was not typed up. There's no question. There's only an answer, no question. There's all that other stuff in there. So again, I mean, it's very possible, but there's also a lot of ambiguity there, and a lot of leaps. Which to be clear, the way Juan didn't put all this is, hey, this is a
For sure.
bombshell.
For sure.
Juan just said that this is something interesting to think about, and I
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and that sort of leads into his theory, the theory being that there could have been a payphone right next to or right outside of the liquor store, and that person, the person in question, could have placed a call from that phone and then had a conversation like, how did you get this number? Or, yes, I am carrying. If you want to meet me at this place, we can discuss that. So Juan posits a possibility being that Liz and Sheila went to Gerald looking for drugs, and that this recap is so simple that I probably should look up the actual post, because I'm looking at it now. I'm like, oh, this is skipping a bunch of stuff in between.
Well, I think she said that Liz would have like called AMP and said he was
And
looking,
said, where could I get something?
and AMP
And
would
then AMP
direct
would
him
say,
to
yeah,
Gerald's pager.
yeah.
Pages Gerald, and then I think the rest of the theory pretty much tracks with what he had said.
Then Gerald and Shaky followed them to Amp's house from the liquor store. I think part of the reason of that, the idea was like, who's dropping my name?
Right.
I don't know this woman. how did
Mhm.
she get my name that
Yeah.
I would have drugs to sell? And that they all end up going to Amp's house, and that perhaps the argument that we are told occurred at the house could have been a confrontation wherein, Gerald and perhaps Shaky confront Amp and say, why are you giving out my number to people you don't know? Um, that somehow that could help explain the idea of like Liz better not come back here. And then uh, the parties in question that do leave the house go to the ball field, um, and that Gerald is the one who attacks Liz if she, for example, refuses some sort of sexual provocation. That Gerald shot both women. Shaky could have cleaned up and fled. Gerald picked him up, and the pair tried to repair things by bringing drugs to Amps. And then they return with Rob G and kill everyone inside to eliminate witnesses before leaving with Rob to destroy evidence.
Yeah,
Before
essentially, it said, they which I think there's parts of this that are we can be reasonably sure, well, reasonably suspect that it's a really good theory of what happened, which is, I think I'm comfortable saying that Liz texted somebody and was going to the liquor store to meet them to do drugs, as Michael just said in the chat. In that part of Indiana, at least, it's like liquor store parking lots are a very common place for deals to go down. Like,
Mhm.
so they went and met whoever it was there, whether it was Gerald or whether it was Rob G or some person we don't even know, Joe Tidwell, whoever. That then they went from there. The timing, I think, works, that they went from there to Amp's house, and Juan's theory that was, maybe some confrontation about, hey, why did you give my name? But I don't know. I don't know that world. Like, is the drug dealer happy for the business, or they're like, hey, why?
Right. That was my thought too. I was not just
Yeah.
not sure.
But for whatever reason, they go there, and then there's some sort of argument there, and then a group of them leave. Liz, Sheila, and whoever else leave and go to the ball field, and then those murders happen, and then they return back. And I think in Juan's theory, where he laid it all out, was that they go back to the house to go, smoke, do drugs with them, is just kind of like chill things out, like, hey, we're all good, and then whatever happened in there, during that, let them know, no, they're not good. Maybe there's some truth in what Gerald's confession says, right? That, that the, that the women in the house were saying, no, we're telling, we're not, we're going to call the police, or we're going to tell whatever. And they're like, well, we're just going to wipe out everybody. Then they killed everybody and left. So I think it's some version of that story. I think that the moving parts definitely work. Right. So the call from Michelle's, go to the liquor store, get drugs, from the liquor store. They go to Amps. We know there was a conference. There was a visit to Amps. There was a conversation there. Seems like, if we believe Willie, that Liz was part of that. Then there's a trip to the ball field. We know that timing works. Murders happen there. Back to the house. And I think, and I'm comfortable saying that whatever happened with everything else, that scene at the house, the murder scene at the house, was absolutely to kill the witnesses.
Mhm. Which you've said from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, whether that's Gerald or Rob G, I don't know. I am very curious if that connection with that address does connect back to Rob G in somehow,
Hmm.
in some way. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from Juan or whoever that was doing that. Again, my apologies for losing that email. Um, So,
But
and we'll see. We'll see if there's a connection there. It's just so hard for me. We have so many names and people thrown around. The only one that's consistently thrown through it is always Shaky. Rob G comes through with all of the, it's like I said at the beginning, Gerald Matthews throws a kink into this whole thing. So, we're
yeah.
we're gonna keep just so as we move on and start covering other things and having other people on the show as we're moving forward, just know that, like, all this stuff is still being worked on. I'm still working on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And there are some listeners that are working with me and helping do stuff. So, like there are all these things that are happening behind the scenes. We're just not talking about them. And if we have something that we find that's significant, well, first to get shared with the lawyers, and then at some point it'll get shared with you guys.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, and I know you said you may have something you wanted to mention towards the end of our conversation, but, I think always nice to touch in with this. These are all human beings. We do not know. This is speculation. We are attempting to get justice for the victims and justice for Chris Bynum. But the last thing we want to do is be careless and exchange one Black gentleman for another, because that is what it feels that the police did. So we are not, all of these people are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We're just trying to figure out the truth.
Yeah. And that segues us into Sunday's episode. Like I said, I was already planning on covering what your rights are with interactions with police, and what your custodial situation is, and what your rights are in those different situations. And then I actually was thinking about addressing it today, but I don't want to address it with the chat or with Janet, because it's probably going to be a bit of an uncomfortable conversation. But somebody made a post asking a question to on the follow-up, or excuse me, on our Facebook page, that suggested when I cover that information, that given some recent events, I talk about how that would play into with other agencies. I'm sure you guys can figure out where I'm kind of going with that. And that's just going to be an uncomfortable conversation, but it is something that I've been kind of really wrestling with for the last couple of days, if I even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But I am going to, because I think it's necessary and important to talk about. When I say that, I'm talking about the laws, our rights in interactions like that. So we'll be talking about some of that. Probably going to make some people mad. I'm hoping not to. I'm going to do my best not to, but I feel strongly enough about it, that is, as far as everyone's safety, that I think that the conversation needs to happen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in Sunday's episode too. So just be ready for that. Just be ready for that. We'll see how it goes. And I'm going to do it without a script. So we'll see how that goes too, because I just need to be able to just talk. So we'll be talking about all that on Sunday. Thank you guys for being here tonight, and thanks for listening, tuning in every week. And we can't wait to talk to you guys about all of that next Monday when we record next week's follow-up. Forgot how to end an episode. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. And bye, guys, on behalf of Zach.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop on my audio. I'm going to end this live stream, guys. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.